You didn't become slower, you were slowly injured. At first, it's almost invisible. You forget a simple word in the middle of a sentence. You read the same email 3 times and still don't understand what it's asking. A small decision, what to reply, what to choose, suddenly feels heavy, like lifting something with your bare hands. And you start to wonder, what's wrong with me? But the truth is, nothing went wrong overnight. When someone is criticized day after day, when their mistakes are magnified and their efforts ignored, the mind learns a quiet kind of fear. It begins to shrink to survive. People think verbal wounds disappear because there is no blood. Yet words can live inside the nervous system long after the voice that spoke them has left the room. A single harsh sentence can echo for years, teaching the brain to hesitate before it even tries. That's why many survivors describe the same feeling, a strange emptiness in the head, as if thoughts are walking through fog. Complex problems cause panic. Simple conversations feel like exams you're destined to fail. This is not laziness. It is not low intelligence. It is a nervous system that has been trained to expect danger where there should have been safety. And maybe you've lived like this for so long that it feels normal, flinching at raised voices, apologizing before you speak, doubting every choice you make. But what if these weren't personality flaws at all? What if they were symptoms of something that happened to you, not something that is you? To understand why constant criticism changes a person, we need to look at what happens beneath the skin, inside the brain and the nervous system. Every time you're yelled at, mocked, or made to feel small, the brain treats it as a threat. Not an emotional inconvenience, but a biological danger. The amygdala, the brain's alarm center, switches on as if a predator has entered the room. Cortisol and adrenaline flood the body, preparing you to fight, run, or freeze. If this happens occasionally, the system resets. But when it happens day after day, the alarm never truly turns off. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus, planning, and decision-making, begins to weaken under constant stress. That is why people who live with verbal abuse often say, "I can't think clearly anymore." It's not a metaphor. The brain's executive functions are literally being suppressed. At the same time, the hippocampus, the area that handles memory, struggles to store information properly. Thoughts feel slippery. You reread the same message and still can't absorb it. You forget what you were about to say mid-sentence. The mind is not failing. It is conserving energy in survival mode. Neuroscientists call this state hypervigilance. The nervous system becomes like a smoke detector that goes off even when someone is just cooking dinner. A raised eyebrow feels like a threat. A neutral comment sounds like an accusation. Over time, the body learns a cruel lesson. Staying small feels safer than taking up space. Speaking less feels safer than expressing needs. Doubting yourself feels safer than being attacked again. This is how criticism rewires a personality without ever touching the skin. And here is the most important truth. These changes are adaptive, not defective. Your brain did not betray you. It tried to protect you with the tools it had. Understanding this biology is the first step to realizing that the problem was never your intelligence or your character. It was the environment that shaped them. People often imagine trauma as something dramatic, a car crash, a disaster, a single terrifying moment. But trauma can also arrive quietly, disguised as everyday conversations. When harsh words become routine, the nervous system stops reacting only to the present. It begins to react to memory. A tone of voice, a slammed door, even a familiar sigh can trigger the same surge of fear that once followed an insult. This is where the body takes over. Some people go into fight. Their voice becomes sharp, defensive, ready to argue before they are even attacked. Others choose flight, avoiding phone calls, meetings, relationships, anything that might expose them to more criticism. Many fall into freeze, staring at a simple task for hours, unable to start, as if the mind has unplugged itself. And there is another response we rarely talk about. Fawn, trying to please everyone, apologizing for existing, becoming smaller so the storm will pass. None of these reactions are choices. They are survival strategies learned in an unsafe emotional climate. That is why a person can look calm on the outside while their heart is racing. Why someone can hear a raised voice in another room and suddenly feel 10 years old again. Why a simple disagreement can feel like the edge of a cliff. Trauma doesn't live in the past, it lives in the nervous system's present. And the most painful part is the confusion. Survivors often blame themselves. Why am I so sensitive? Why can't I just move on? They don't realize their body is still guarding a wound that never had permission to heal. Understanding this changes the story. What feels like weakness is actually memory. Memory stored not in thoughts, but in muscle, breath, and heartbeat. Verbal abuse rarely looks like abuse at first. It often wears ordinary clothes, jokes, advice, concern, even love. The first form is degrading and labeling. You're so stupid. You never do anything right. Use your brain for once. When these sentences are repeated, they stop being opinions and become mirrors. The mind begins to see itself through those words. Psychologists call this learned helplessness, a state where effort feels pointless because failure seems pre-written. In workplaces, it sounds like, how did you mess up something this simple? In families, your brother could do this at your age. In relationships, no one else would put up with you. The second form is sarcasm, disguised as humour. A partner laughs while exposing your insecurity at dinner. A colleague turns your mistake into a running joke. When you look hurt, they smile and say, "Relax, I'm just kidding." But jokes that always aim at the same wound are not humour. They are weapons with a friendly handle. This is a classic power move. Attack first, deny later, leave the victim confused about their right to feel pain. The third form is emotional invalidation. You say you're exhausted and hear, "You're too sensitive." You share sadness and get, "Others have it worse." You celebrate something small and they reply, "What's the big deal?" This erases a person from the inside. If your feelings are constantly dismissed, you learn to doubt your own reality. The message is simple. What you experience does not matter. These three forms rarely appear alone. They weave together, creating an atmosphere where no punch is visible, yet every day leaves a bruise. And the most dangerous part? Because there is no broken bone, people believe they should be able to tolerate it. They call it tough love, normal conflict, just their personality. But abuse does not need volume to be violent. Sometimes it only needs repetition. Slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to live smaller. You speak less in meetings. You rehearse simple sentences in your head before saying them out loud. You apologize before anyone has accused you of anything. These habits feel like personality traits, but most of them were not born with you. They were trained into you. Chronic criticism reshapes behavior, the way water reshapes stone. People who were once confident become hesitant. Decisions that used to take minutes now take days. Procrastination grows, not from laziness, but from fear. Fear of doing it wrong. Fear of being exposed. Fear of hearing that familiar sigh of disappointment. Many survivors develop a quiet addiction to escape. Scrolling for hours, drinking a little too much, buying things they don't need. These are not moral failures. They are attempts to borrow a few minutes of relief from a nervous system that never rests. Even the body changes. Shoulders tighten, voice softens, eye contact shortens. Some describe feeling like a guest in their own life, watching themselves from a distance, and then comes the cruelest shift, self-blame. I've become weak. I'm just not as smart as others. I'm too sensitive for the real world. But sensitivity was not the original problem. The environment was. What looks like a new personality is often a collection of survival strategies, designed to reduce pain, not to express who you truly are. The real self didn't disappear. It learned to hide. Understanding this is painful, but also freeing, because what was learned under pressure can, with time and safety, be unlearned. To understand how this damage looks in real life, let's step away from theory and meet three ordinary people. Maria, 34, customer service supervisor. Her manager corrected her in front of the team almost every day. Small mistakes were announced like public verdicts. After 2 years, Maria began rewriting emails 10 times before sending them. She stopped sharing ideas, even good ones. At home, she sat in the car for minutes before going inside, trying to calm a heart that was still racing from a single meeting. David, 41, husband and father. His partner called him useless whenever money was tight. The words were followed by laughter, then the familiar line, "I'm just being honest." David started avoiding conversations altogether. He nodded instead of speaking, slept on the couch to keep the peace, and slowly forgot how confident he once sounded. Lena, 20, college student. Growing up, every grade below an A was a family emergency. After all we've sacrificed, this is what you give us? By sophomore year, she couldn't finish essays without shaking. Not because the work was hard, but because her mind expected punishment before she typed the first sentence. Different ages, different lives, yet the same invisible wound. None of them were born anxious, silent, or afraid to think. They learned those behaviours in environments where words were sharper than knives. And like many others, they believed the problem lived inside them, not in the voices that shaped their days. From the outside, leaving seems simple. From the inside, it rarely is. Most survivors are not trapped by weakness. They're trapped by biology and hope. Psychologists call this trauma bonding, a confusing attachment formed when pain and brief moments of kindness come from the same person. After a cruel comment, there might be an apology. After days of silence, a sudden gesture of care. The nervous system learns to wait for those small rewards, the way a gambler waits for the next win. This is intermittent reinforcement, one of the strongest forms of conditioning. Then there is guilt. What if I'm overreacting? What if they didn't mean it? What if I break the family? Fear whispers that leaving will bring chaos, loneliness, or financial ruin. Hope whispers that tomorrow they might change. And between fear and hope, people remain still. Cultural stories make it harder. Loyalty to parents, commitment to marriage, the belief that real adults tolerate discomfort. Many confuse endurance with love, but staying is rarely a free choice when the nervous system is exhausted. A tired brain prefers familiar pain to unknown safety. Understanding this doesn't mean you must leave today. It simply means your hesitation has reasons. You are not foolish for staying. You are human in a complicated emotional maze. Most people try to heal in the wrong order. They start with motivation, discipline, positive thinking, but a nervous system that still feels unsafe cannot be talked into calmness. It must be felt into safety first. Step 1. Bring the body back from emergency mode. A simple 4 to 6 breathing pattern. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6, tells the vagus nerve that the war is over. Cold water on the face, slow walking, noticing 5 objects in the room. These are not small tricks, they are biological reset buttons. Step 2. Name what happened. Instead of "I'm too sensitive," try "I was verbally harmed." Language reorganizes experience. When the pain has a name, it stops pretending to be your identity. Step 3. Micro boundaries. Healing doesn't begin with dramatic speeches. It begins with tiny sentences. "I'm not comfortable with that tone. Let's pause this conversation." You practice them like a new muscle, awkward at first, stronger with time. Step 4. Rebuild evidence. Criticism erased your internal resume. Create a new one. Write 3 things you handled well each day, no matter how small. The brain learns through proof, not pep talks. Step 5. Co-regulation. A safe nervous system is often borrowed before it becomes our own, through a therapist, a friend, a support group, even a calm voice in a video. Humans heal in connection more than in isolation. None of these steps demand courage you don't have. They only ask for repetition. Safety grows slowly, like a room warming after the window is finally closed. You're not fixing a broken self. You are teaching your body that the danger is no longer in charge. Many people confuse boundaries with punishment. They are not walls built to hurt others. They are doors built to protect you. A boundary begins with a simple truth. You are allowed to decide what you will and will not tolerate. This is not selfishness. It is basic emotional hygiene. Start small. Instead of long explanations, use clear sentences. I won't continue this conversation if the tone stays like this. I need a break. We can talk later. That joke isn't okay with me. Notice how none of these attack the other person. They only describe your limits. Some relationships require the grey rock approach, becoming calm, brief, emotionally neutral, so there is nothing for the other side to provoke. Others may need distance, or even no contact, when harm continues despite your efforts. Guilt will appear. It always does. You might hear an inner voice saying, "You're being dramatic. You owe them patience." Remember, guilt is often the echo of old training, not the voice of morality. Healthy boundaries reveal who respects you and who only enjoyed access to you, and boundaries do not need perfection. You may stumble, over-explain, or retreat after trying. That doesn't erase progress. Each attempt teaches the nervous system that protection is possible. You are not responsible for managing someone else's anger. You are responsible for keeping your mind safe enough to live in. Imagine a version of you who no longer flinches at a raised voice. A version who can read a message without rehearsing fear, who can make a decision without apologizing for existing. That future is not fantasy. It is what happens when the nervous system finally learns that the war has ended. Healing does not arrive as a dramatic transformation. It arrives as small, ordinary moments, speaking one honest sentence, leaving one toxic conversation earlier than usual, choosing rest instead of proving your worth. One day, you will notice something subtle. You can think again. The fog lifts. The mind that once felt empty begins to feel spacious. Not perfect, not fearless, but safe enough to breathe. And when that happens, you will understand the most important truth of all. You are never broken. You are surviving an environment that wasn't built for your heart. If this story felt like it was describing you, you don't have to carry it alone. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue these conversations about the quiet parts of the human mind. Leave a comment and share a moment when you realized the problem wasn't you, it was what you lived through. Your words might become the courage someone else needs today. Thank you for watching.